Okay, this time I want to look at the following puzzle. So we want to rearrange the numbers in the circles so that no circles connected by lines contain two consecutive numbers. So if we look at this, we definitely have to rearrange because we see 1 and 2 are consecutive numbers and they're connected by a line. So that violates our condition for the solution here. 2 and 3 are consecutive and they're joined by a line. So we've got to rearrange these numbers in such a way that no consecutive numbers are next to each other. So to do this, I'm going to write a program to do this. So to do that, what I want to do is replace these numbers 1 with variables. And so we can have the program change the numbers very quickly and try all the combinations for 1 through 8 in all of these different areas to see which ones might be possible solutions. So we'll start our code, and we have our standard set up here, template for a C++ program. I'm already thinking I need a library here, since when I look at these numbers, to find consecutive, one easy way to find consecutive numbers would be subtract the 2, but depending on whether this is 1 or 2, or if we flip-flop these numbers and it was 2 and 1, when we subtract, we're either going to get 1 or -1 for consecutive numbers. So just to simplify things, I want to look at the absolute value of the subtraction between different nodes here to check that. So for the absolute value, I'm going to need to include another library. So I'm going to #include CMath, and that'll let me use the ABS, or absolute value function. Okay. We've done a similar problem before where we're trying to go through all the combinations of numbers for a variable, and to do that we just use a simple for loop. In our setup here, where we're trying to go through all the different combinations of A through H, okay, so we're going to do these 8 different numbers with different variables, and so we'll set that up here in the for loop. And I'll just start with the first one, and we'll create an integer a. We'll set that equal to 1 since that's our first value we want to check, and we will stop when we get from a less than or equal to the top number is 8, and of course we'll increment by 1, so a plus to increment, and we'll just nest our for loops to go and do the same thing for b. So we'll create a variable b, again 1 through 8, and we'll continue that for c, d, all the way through h. So we have all our nested for loops set up, and this will go through every combination for a through h for 1 to 8. So we can check to see if any of those are valid answers. And to do that, we'll just set up an if statement, and we'll check the subtraction between the numbers. So I'm going to take the absolute value of, and we'll check that the first 2 nodes, A and B. So I'm just going to take the absolute value of A minus B. So remember, we're just comparing these 2 nodes, and the reason we're looking at A and B is they are connected. So they should not be consecutive. So when we do the math here, a minus b, the absolute value of that, we want that to be not equal to 1. Okay, so either, depending on which one is consecutive, either we'll get 1 or -1. With the subtraction, we'll take the absolute value, and that'll turn it, even if it's -1, to +1. So if it's not equal to 1, then it's a non-consecutive number, and that meets the criteria. But we need to do the same thing for all of the rest of the connected nodes. So A and B we've got covered. The next one would be A and C, and then A and D. So in our conditions here, we can just do double ampersand, which is the logical and then we'll do the absolute value of A minus C. That'll take care of the next value, and as long as that's not equal to 1, we should be good. And then we need that last condition for A, so we'll do another ampersand, absolute value of A minus D. and that should take care of our first node and all the connections to other nodes. And as long as that's not equal to 1, we're good there. Ampersand. Then we'll look at node B. So we've already done B to A, so we'll look at B to C, and we'll do the absolute value of B minus C, and continuing that pattern we can go that not equal to 1 and C to D, and so on, to make sure we get all the nodes. And I'll just include nested ifs just so I don't keep doing logical ands. I could continue that, but my program's going to get a little bit long off the screen here. So the next set we'll just look at absolute value of B minus E. And so that would be this node connection, B minus E, so there's a connection there. We'll continue until we have all of those nodes done. Okay, so I'm going to save a little time here and just fill in those if statements. And the next thing we want to do is check to see, so this will find a pattern where they're non-consecutive, but we also want to ensure that there's no duplicate numbers, so we're actually rearranging the numbers. So we don't want 2 1s, for instance, anything like that. So what I'm going to do is add all the digits together, so A through H, and if I add 1 through 8 together, I get the number 36. So if I add the numbers together and get 36, that'll help me ensure that I have, 1 through 8 added, but I could get other combinations with duplicate values that would add up to 36. So I'm also going to do the multiplication, so A times B times C all the way through H, and if I multiply the numbers 1 through 8 together, I get this 40,320. So if I get those two things, I should ensure that the values A through H contain the numbers, the digits 1 through 8. So that sets up my if statement. So if I get inside all of these for loops and these if statements, I should have a valid solution in here. So let me go ahead and print my solution, and I'm going to try to make it look like our original chart. So I'll C out and put some spaces in here because A was kind of in the middle. So I'll print out A on the first line, in that line, go to the next line, and we'll do a C out for B with a space, and C and D. Okay, and so if we look at our chart, so I'm print that on the first line, B, C, and E, and then the next line would be E, F, G. And so I'll continue down here with E with a space, F and G, and then I just need one more line, a couple of extra spaces here to space it over and line it up under these, and I'll put my last H there, and that should give me a solution. In case I have multiple solutions, I'm going to do 2 end lines here to space them out. And then in previous problems I've also done a solution count in case there was more than one possible solution. So I'll create another variable up here, int my solution count equal to 0. I need to increment, if I get in here, my solution count, so I'll just put solution count plus plus, and then at the end I'll add a cout statement saying how many solutions there were. So this should be essentially what we want. So let's compile and run that. I'll execute, compile and run, and it looks like we get 4 solutions here. So here's our puzzle where none of these connected lines should be consecutive numbers in a row. So that's one way to solve a problem, is just write a program to do it. So hopefully this helped you learn a little bit more about programming, and I'll see you next time.